Welcome to Friday Heavy, your guide to the world of aggressive, abrasive, cathartic, loud, weird, wild, and free vibrations. Brought to you the folks behind Tunedig. I'm Kyle.
Oh shit. Kyle came in with the intro that time. I'm Cliff. Our intros got so weird that I didn't even do it. I love it. We are evolving. Each episode, we try to concisely cover right after I try to make Kyle laugh at the top. 3 things. First, one brand new release in the world of heavy music and why we think it'll be worth a spin. Second, a playlist we've curated to help you explore a heavy subgenre or an artist or a scene or some other really cool idea we've had. Often related to that new release in some way, but otherwise just a banging playlist, to be honest with you. Lastly, and most importantly, we always talk about one organization tackling a heavy issue in their community, doing some sort of critical culture impacting work. Because, well, we need something to do with all that punk energy. And we've got to find some way to do something in this world that keeps existing. Anyway, let's get into it. Kyle, why did you start the podcast today and what are we talking about?
We are talking about a band that we both love. This is a little bit of a special episode. Today we're talking about Endless Hallway, the 7th and latest full-length release from Wilmington, North Carolina's He Is Legend. It is the, like we said, 7th record for the road-worn riff veterans who are going on, and this is some crazy shit to say out loud, 20 years of placing their faith in whiskey and weed and Black Sabbath, and they are indeed goddamn electric. When artists do that, this is our most personal album to date thing. I really do think this episode is that for us because unlike most Friday Heavy episodes where we're going in relatively fresh and unaware about what we're listening to and we're just like, ooh, that grabs me. I don't think, genuinely, I don't think there are any two people in the world on planet Earth who are more qualified to talk about this band. Because as much as they've been from North Carolina in and out of Atlanta as like a special second home for them, I think, one, we've probably seen them over the years more than anyone, and two, are just very aware of and connected to their discography. I would probably venture to say they are my favorite band, if not one of my top 5 favorites. We haven't had a chance to cover them on Tunedig yet for a multitude of reasons, so I'm excited to have a chance to finally have an artifact to share with the world about what I think is this band's greatness. So first and foremost, man, Legend is a guitar band, like capital G, capital B, trademark, and the heavy that makes them worthy of Friday Heavy inclusion comes from guitar. With their guitar, you're getting the best flavors of grunge, punk, sludge, classic rock, and perhaps most importantly, a kind of a bluesy bounce informed by a deep and real love of Southern rap and trap music, which we share.
One of the primary threads that me and you have together about this band is that even though we probably like opposite ends of their career spans, this brought to mind how much I still loved like Scram Toots and a bunch of otherwise not necessarily super great hardcore songs early on that were really fun. And then some of those early records, they leaned into songwriting in a way that really hooked me in. But the through line all the way through to today that me and you both agree on is Adam Tanboo's, the guitarist, I think about guitar riffs that he does only one time in a song. His riffs have an attitude that other people do not know how to do with a guitar, whether they're totally leaning into grunge, like whether they're in that weird It Hates You thing in the middle of their career, or whether you even go back to like all the I Am Hollywood stuff that a lot of people love. Those seem like different bands, but that the through line you can connect for sure is like the guitar work just fucks 100% of the time. That's something that we've always been able to talk about. We have driven to He Is Legend shows that got canceled more often than normal people have gone to He Is Legend shows, period.
Shit, I hate how true that is.
Yeah.
Now more than ever, now that other bands we love have imploded, I appreciate that they have persisted. So let's get into it. We have gotten 2 pairs of singles from this new record, Endless Hallway. And the first pair was The Prowler and Lifeless Lemonade. And in the case of Lifeless Lemonade, I'll quickly acknowledge all the sites that have written about it have talked about the Meshuggah-iness of Lifeless Lemonade, which I think is a Cliff talking about the riffing. That's a thing to acknowledge. But I want to spotlight the Prowler first. These guys were on hiatus for a minute in the early 2000s. And since coming back in 2014, each successive new album drop has opened with a clearly more honed sound. Like there's a holy shit, he is legend is back type of thing that's very classic Rocky about it all. With their last album, White Bat, which dropped in 2019, they were cresting upward toward what felt like it might finally be their moment after years and years of not really breaking through, and then immediately had that bubble burst by the pandemic, and have been pretty public and ruminating on how that felt and what it's been like to deal with that. So with the lead-off track, The Prowler, it is the lead-off track on the album as well as the first single they released. We hear, I think, the result of that pent-up frustration and that like sense of creative urgency. It is the fastest and heaviest He Is Legend yet. And it's got like I mentioned, a holy shit factor. It's a banger. Like it just bangs start to finish. And if you're new to the band, the first thing you'll notice, like we suggested, is the drop C riffing, especially if you play it loud, capital, all caps loud, like you should, in your car or somewhere that will disturb your neighbors. But also don't sleep on Jesse Shelley's monster drumming.
I walk around my damn house and sing that all day because now that hook and that riff is, I don't know, permanently fixated to the studs of my brain.
They do that thing that you really like. They do that move where they bring it back real slow.
Yeah, I haven't been impressed by that since a good solid 2004. Not only did they stare directly into the camera and do it anyway, but they did it good enough to make me literal jaw drop somewhere out in public. It was embarrassing.
All right, so on to the next pair, Honey from the Hive and Sour. We're going to talk about Honey from the Hive. Little sweet and sour. I appreciate that pairing. Winky pairing. Honey opens with a little bit of like, check out my new pedal tone wizardry from Adam. Little bit of, oh, look, I can do clean tones too. Like that story you hear about Come As You Are on Nevermind. And then it goes into their sort of like near perfected recipe for a all capitalized big rock song, trademark symbol. They have this knack for evolving their old stuff while sounding fresh and like what their current thing is. And there's a track on every new Legend album that feels like a version of Eating a Book from I Am Hollywood written in a parallel timeline. And the best examples of that are Eating a Book and When the Woods Were Young from White Bat. So just bump those two up against each other. But Sour is a little bit of that same thing here. But to your point, I particularly love how Honey starts out slow. And it reminds me how for a long time they would open live sets with just like a totally unique slow sludge riff, like a Weed Eater type riff that they would never use any other time ever. They would never put it in a song. You could only find it on like a 2007 WMV YouTube upload that's like 12p quality. And I like actually have videos favorited that are that. So I'm barely exaggerating. But here, so we're not dropping you into the slow intro, we're going to share some fast, punky verse and then some big rock chorus. It's like it's the authentically evil Foo Fighters that Studio 666 or whatever couldn't pull off. So here's Honey from the Hive.
Skylar is in top form on this record. The vocals are sick. He's had so many phases of being a vocal with this band. You know, he really leaned into the Southern stuff early on. He was a lot more of a hardcore vocalist early on. And his voice sounds great.
Yeah.
That's worth calling out because I know that he had to have put a lot of hard work into getting on top of his game like that and being able to record like this. It sounds great. even in the moments where they don't go in the direction I expected or maybe even wanted, the quality of what they're doing in the recording really stands out. And that's not something that's always been true for them. And I love to see it here. It really carries you through to the next song or idea or whatever. I just love to see this band continuing to exist in their better and better form every time. It rules.
Agreed.
Sincerely from me and Kyle, check out Endless Hallway, out now on Spine Farm. Go listen to this however you want, like we always tell you to, and then just go send the band your money. Go to shows. They're definitely playing shows. They're going out with Valiant Thor on a little run over the next few days. It's going to be rad. That's right. We'll be there soon. Yeah. So go to shows if you can. Grab some merch from them if you can. And if you run out of ideas, just ask them for their Cash App or whatever and send them some money with a winky and smiley face. Or bring them weed so Adam Tanbooz can continue to do whatever it is his brain does. Absolutely. Depending on what state you are in, consider that gift as well. The most sativa of sativas that you can find. This was 110% THC. Down. Bring it on. What did we do with the playlist this time? Because usually we just swap this around, but you just aced both of the assignments. So what'd you do this time? Well, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, and that remains true here. This one I did with a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, honestly. This one flowed from my deeply held belief that, as if you couldn't tell already, I think this is one of the most misunderstood and therefore underappreciated rock and roll bands in existence. And how they wound up that way is a story for a much longer conversation that hopefully we can tell on the main podcast someday. But for now, consider this playlist like a rebranding exercise, or if you hate marketing terminology, an entry into the official record to set the record straight about who they are and why they do in fact rule. So the thinking here was primarily these are the bands that Legend should be lumped into a list with or should be sharing bills with. You should see them on a poster with. Also partly informed by the bands that they have nodded to. They themselves have said we should be in this context by covering them live over many, many years, and kind of have the benefit of like picking out specific songs that they've thrown 30 seconds of into other songs, which is a cool move of theirs. And in the case of bands like the Melvins and Uncle Acid, bands who have the same like cool, totally one of one weirdness and musical chops, that it seems like Legend is finally at long last starting to very slowly penetrate the collective consciousness with. And I think lastly, there's a like horror movie or dark aesthetic that informs their vibe. So that's another kind of common thread. To be more specific, I guess, if you take the energy that made White Zombie and Alice in Chains so cool and kind of scary in the early 90s, and then you take the Melvins and Nirvana's sort of ironic Gen X disaffection, you're kind of starting to get the picture of who He Is Legend really is, versus they were on a Christian label, maybe not. They're in with these like C-level Furnace Fest reject bands. I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but like they should be in the pantheon with the cool, proper, like rock and roll bands that fuck. 15 years earlier, and they would have been a bumper sticker on like a black boogie van, or the words He Is Legend would have been carved into a desk. So I personally have played this playlist on repeat a shit ton since I made it. So I love it, and I'll be interested to see if it gets any spins from other people. But at the very least, it's a love letter to a band that I think should matter a lot more than they do. And in my Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they're tops. This playlist definitely does what you set out to do. One vignette of it, the run of Slipknot, Korn, Melvins, Mutoid Man, Danzig, Caius. That's it. That's it. It's the energy. Like, how do you care and not care simultaneously and so intensely? The caring and not caring thing. It's a total, like, if you get it, you get it. There's an exact attitude like carving out in the middle of the half pipe run type thing. Half pipes are a good segue. That's right. Heck yeah. In every episode, we always want to cover one impactful organization doing really critical work. It is midterms week. Yes, we're going to skate a little bit off the side and go a different route. So if you're holding your breath, breathe slowly. It's okay. But we can launch off from this. It's midterms week in America. As Georgians specifically, we are really distinctly reminded, like other states like Texas, we're reminded that voting will not save us, literally, in our states. It's great to see positive outcomes potentially across the country or world, but there are still pockets where things are deeply entrenched in a really bad way. Georgia's one of them. The system that we have simply is not capable of the degree of change that we need to address the reality that we find ourselves in. And that's from economics to abortion rights to climate change. And so one kind of meta topic or theme that we've had in this segment of the podcast is we've got to literally fund the change ourselves. We've talked a lot of about how people do that, how organizations do it in prior episodes, especially in things like discussing community funds, whether those are solidarity funds or abortion funds, right? Specifically, though, when it comes to climate change, we've got to take a similar approach to that. We got to fund it ourselves. Because effectively, like while the government tells you across the world, right, avoid plastic straws to save the planet, we have studies coming out this week that shows that billionaires emit 1 million times more greenhouse gases than the average person.
Not figuratively, literally. Yeah.
Yes, just to put a real sharp edge on it real fast and then back away. I don't know how Cliff and Kyle can be more clear to anyone listening to this podcast that the wealthy are killing you and they're killing our planet and they will never stop. Great. Cool. So one of the endless reasons to preserve our planet is to preserve the planet and its outdoors as an active space. And specifically what we want to talk about this week is preserving it specifically for snowy winters. And for those fortunate enough to live near snowy mountains and participate in the outdoors there, or fortunate enough to be able to travel to participate in that. And if that's not a big part of your life, culture might have you believe that winters and enjoying the winters and snow and all that is only sort of for like rich elites who helicopter into Vail and expensive ski resorts. That's true, but that's a fraction of the joy that's experienced by a lot of people who are sharing public lands set aside by the government so that you can go and specifically not have to pay money to enjoy it.
Just thinking about Kendall Roy flying into Vail. Like Kendall Roy and both types of snow he enjoys.
That's only one fraction of the enjoyment that people get out of being able to use public lands. It sounds stupid until you individually feel the sensation of freedom that comes from gravity sliding down the side of a mountain on a piece of wood or metal or something. And all of a sudden you go, this is a way to interact with the world that I didn't know how to do before.
It's one of those ways that nature is so much better for your mental health than you could ever anticipate before you do it.
I love to remind people, literally, if you're not sure what to do and you're feeling real stressed over a long period of time, find a way to climb up a thing and then come back down it. If you just apply that outdoors, you'll feel better.
And if you listen to the past season or two of Toondig, there are lots of Cliff experiences music and therefore his own spirit and consciousness more deeply by experiencing these albums we talk about as he goes down the side of a mountain. So music and nature, I think it's becoming a deeply held belief on this podcast. That's a great context in which to explore your inner world while in the outer world.
Yep, 100%. And we have to protect those contexts where we can draw that out of ourselves. It's not just going to stay there if we do nothing. So that's all wrapped up into this way of figuring out how to fund climate change ourselves and preserve our own world because other people are not going to do it for us. So we want to highlight one organization doing that specific type of work, specifically Protect Our Winters, or otherwise known as POW. So in 2007, Jeremy Jones, a pro snowboarder, he saw what a lot of us do who like snowboarding or whatever else. You start to notice like, the snow is not coming the same way that we used to expect it to. So back in 2007, he noticed this, and he noticed that, it was harder and harder to count on mountains already to produce the type of snow you would expect so that you can stay safe, so that the mountain can open up, all that stuff, right? But at the same time, he didn't find any organizations specifically focused on mobilizing the snow sports community on climate change. And I think that that's a nice thing to take away. We're giving you a specific example in POW. We'll tell you a little bit more about them, but abstract that out a little bit. Look for opportunities to think about ways we need to fund the things we need in our reality and find ways to engage with groups and communities of people and mobilize them towards change. I mean, this is literally just a snowboarder found a problem, realized no one was engaging with a whole group of people who are very connected and wanted to bridge that gap. Today, they have 130,000 supporters. They engage 50 million outdoor sports enthusiasts globally, right? So this organization, Protect Our Winters, turns, according to them, they turn passionate outdoor people into effective climate advocates. POW leads a community of athletes, thought pioneers, and forward-thinking business leaders to effect systemic political solutions to climate change. And they go on to say our policy agenda consists of a four-pronged approach to climate solutions, including clean energy, clean transportation, carbon pricing, and protecting public lands from fossil fuel extraction. And not to go too far in the weeds on it, but one of the reasons why this is so great to bring up, I, as a person who discovered in my own life the Rocky Mountains in the last 10 years, and it's changed me pretty significantly as a person. Kyle is laughing because he knows that that's a huge understatement. But focusing on climate solutions by looking at 1, clean energy, 2, clean transportation, 3, carbon pricing, and 4, protecting public lands. All 4 of those things have to always be protected in order for a person to be able to get in a car, drive to a mountain, and have a safe experience at it. Right? If you don't protect public lands, they will absolutely be taken and exploited. If you don't have proper transportation, listen, I'm very familiar. There's only one interstate that goes in between Denver and where all these people are trying to get, especially out in Colorado. It reaches a standstill on a regular basis. All of that works together, and you've got to have clean energy to be able to do all of the operations it takes to run a mountain on a regular basis. All these things work hand in hand together. And so you need people charged up in a community who understand the implications of all this stuff, working together to make it actually happen. The top-down saving of our planet is not going to come. This is how we're getting it done. And POW is one really awesome organization doing the type of work that we need to see in a million different places.
I mean, as somebody who is working in his literal day job to close the net zero equation every day, I'm super glad that we're spotlighting this very personal aspect of it. I appreciate that we made all 3 phases of this episode deeply personal. We're going to need all hands on deck to steady the planet. If I've learned one thing in my time in this work, is that climate work is everybody's work. No matter where you are, you can do something positive in this arena. We need all hands on deck to steady our planet and to save it for future generations. Whether you have a kid or not, somebody's kid that you love. And if not, think about the animals. Saving it means preserving the things that bring us joy the best we can, right? It's less of a responsibility and more of a privilege. If we love our things, we take care of them. And POW is tackling one of those critical joys. So we're grateful for them. And we hope that you will learn more about them at protectourwinters.org and consider donating or becoming a member, even and especially if you've never been on a mountain and experienced that joy. Maybe that's sort of the secondary bumper thing we can encourage here. Support POW and get out on a mountain and experience why you should support an organization like POW.
Hell yeah. This has been Friday Heavy. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Go to tunedig.com or follow us on Instagram and Twitter for links to the new release, the playlist, and the organization that we talked about today.